Today we're going to take a look at the topic, avoiding digital transformation failure. And this is a guide for directors. So this is not a very deep technical type of a session where if you're an IT project manager or you're an ERP implementer, this is not the one for you. This is for the senior manager who's going to be controlling a team or having departments that report into him or her, and they're going to be going through a digital transformation. So I don't want anyone to get scared and say, do I need to be a real techie to get this? No. Do you need to be able to learn coding, JavaScript and COBOL to get this? No. Do you need to know the specifics of machine learning and AI for this? No. This is the manager and the director's guide to what is digital transformation, and more importantly, how can we fail? What does the research tell us of those areas where we fail, and how can we get around those? So this is just a little bit about myself. I've been in corporate training now for about 5-6 years or so. The last 2 years of COVID's been a blur. So I'd say I've been in corporate training for about 6 years or so. I've been teaching in higher education in a number of universities and colleges for about 8 years or so. I've been speaking at lots and lots of different technology and marketing conferences. And then I've delivered training to folks on screen, as you can see here, in HubSpot, Google, Jaguar, DocuSign, Irish Times. So I've been around the houses. In the last couple of years, I kind of put everything together in the area of digital marketing. That's where my career was. And then around 2016, I began to really get interested in emerging technology at that time, particularly AI. And somehow that just led me into digital transformation, and it's all I can eat, drink, or sleep. My fiance really doesn't like it. All I keep looking at is digital transformation books. They're all over the house today. So what are we going to look at? Well, the first one is I'm going to give you a quick intro to digital transformation, and I'm going to tell you something that you already know. The world is changing, and we already know this. What we're going to do then is we're going to take a look at what the literature and the research is telling us around project failure in the area of digital transformation. So why do digital transformation projects tend to fail? There's a huge amount of research on this. And then we're also going to take a look at what are the resolutions and the key lessons. There's no point in me handing you a problem today if I don't also hand you some of the tips on how to solve those problems. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. Digital transformation, it's the number one concern for boards and CEOs in 2019. 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail to reach their goals. $1.3 trillion was actually spent on DT in 2018, and a whopping 900 billion of that went to waste based on projects coming in over time, over cost, over budget, or on some of the ones I've seen in the past, they even failed to see the light of day. I was working in an investment bank a number of years ago. I'm not going to say which one, but for those of you who know me or have seen my CV, you'll know which one it is. We were developing an internal system, and the financial crisis happened, and the bank was purchased by a larger bank. And as a result, the system that we were working on never actually got released and rolled out across the business globally. So there can be a lot of waste on these types of projects. And finally, global spend on digital transformation. It's only going to go one way, guys. It's only going to go up. And it's projected that DT spend is going to be over $2.3 trillion by the year 2030. Okay, so there's a lot of statistics and numbers coming at you to show you that it's big. But why do some of the projects fail? What can go wrong? This is what we're going to take a look at a little bit later on. Firstly, just a quick recap. The world is changing. As I mentioned to you guys a few moments ago, we are no longer constrained by the numbers of chairs that were put into a room. We're only constrained by the server capacity of Zoom, and that's into the thousands. So we could literally have thousands of people on this webinar if we needed. So the physical constraints of the world are no longer quite the same constraints that they were. We now need to think about digital constraints to our business, to our growth, to our ability to scale. So this is the former CEO and chairman, Pierre Natteram of Accenture. And when working with the World Economic Forum, he said, digital is the main reason that just over half of the companies on the Fortune 500 list have disappeared since the year 2000. I want you to pause for a moment and just pick up this little device. I'm sure you have it right beside you. And I'm sure that based on the Pew research, you check it about 165 times a day. And that's actually even old research. The point is, this killed Blockbuster Video. Big Blockbuster Video, a multi-billion-dollar business that had something like 9,000 stores across the world. Well, this device helped to kill them. And this also helped to kill Kodak. But this also helped you to check in on my webinar today. It helps you watch your favorite shows on Netflix. It helps you do your banking without having to put on a face mask and go down to a bank. The point here is digital technology can be an opportunity and a threat, depending on what you do about it. For businesses like Blockbuster and businesses like Kodak, it displaced them entirely. But for businesses like Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, Amazon, and AWS as part of Amazon, Shopify, eBay, PayPal, the list goes on, digital technologies have proven to be an absolutely massive opportunity. But I'd like you guys to even just later on today, check out the Interbrand Top Global Brands Report. I watch it every single year, and each year that I've been looking at it for the last decade or so, the big companies that used to be the old reliables, the ones that we based our pension funds on, they're the ones that are starting to disappear off the top 10 list and start to go into the 12th and the 14th and the 20th and the 30th positions. I'm talking about restaurants, fast-moving consumer goods, manufacturers. They're all being replaced by the likes of Facebook, Google, Amazon. The big tech companies are the ones now taking the top spots on the Fortune 500 list. Check out this for a moment, folks. Does this seem familiar to anyone? This is from Tom Fishburne, the marketing cartoonist. Fantastic stuff. A lot of us said this in 2018. A lot of us said this in 2017. Digital transformation is a buzzword. It's just something that I read about on the internet. It's years away. Our business is absolutely fine the way it is. We'll never have anything that will force us to change overnight because the world pretty much shut down overnight due to lockdowns, due to the pandemic. Now, I'm not saying that those things come around very often, but what I am saying is in the 4 to 8 weeks after that period, we saw a massive increase in the number of organizations and businesses realizing that digital transformation is not just a buzzword. It's not just something they've read in an article or someone said to them, hey, check out this thing, it might be of interest in the next few years. It was the way that some businesses kept the lights on. It was the way that some businesses were able to lean into click and collect, get themselves an app or a website ASAP because their physical store was closed. So for some people, for some businesses, digital transformation, improving their marketing, improving their sales with technology, for some businesses, this is the thing that's literally kept the lights on. And for other businesses who are still struggling, my heart goes out to them because particularly in the hospitality area, they haven't been able to do the same thing. But I just want us to take stock of how we have essentially fast forwarded pretty much to the pace of about 3 to 5 years acceleration in terms of our adoption of these digital technologies. Okay, so I've mentioned digital transformation and I've kind of laid out this great philosophy for you. But what is it? Well, according to Gartner, who's a big technology research and advisory company, so we know we can trust them. They say digital transformation is the process of exploiting digital technologies and supporting capabilities to create a new robust business model. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next couple of minutes is we're going to take a look at some of the ways we do that and some of the ways that we can fail. Also, I'm going to show you a really, really important message, but I'm going to give you a quick recap of it right now. Digital transformation is not about technology. Yes, technology is part of it. Maybe you're going to use robotic process automation, you're going to use blockchain, cloud computing, Internet of Things, which is connected sensors. Maybe you're going to have technology, but it's not only about technology. Stay tuned, and in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to show you what else it's about. So as I mentioned to you, digital transformation has been rising and is only going to continue to rise in terms of the amount of spend in the industry. But let's take a little look. Right now, I'm sitting in Dublin, in Ireland. Let's see how we're doing in Ireland. According to research from Amorc, 51% of businesses already have a digital transformation strategy in place. They are not thinking about it as a word or a trend to be considered later. They are actually transforming their own operations using technology. 48% of businesses are worried about their competitors getting there before they do. So there's a bit of a space race here almost. 38% of the audiences surveyed for this don't know which technologies to adopt for their business. And 41% say that they lack the skills. So what we can see is two things. Businesses are already on their digital transformation journeys, but they know that they don't understand the technology and the skills enough. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the skills. We're going to talk about the skills of how you can actually manage and implement your digital transformation, because that seems to be one of the biggest difficulties. We can buy technology, we can buy it off the shelf, or we can custom adapt it, which has its own challenges, but it's the actual skills of managing the implementation itself. So let's take a look. Where do we fail and what can we learn? So I'm going to use enterprise resource planning as a proxy for digital transformation. ERP, which is bringing in a large management information system that will help to manage and automate lots of different parts of your business, sales, marketing, finance, payroll, etc. For many businesses, that's what they'll do on their digital transformation. And there's decades of research there. So that's what I wanted to lean into and actually use for this class. So what we can see today is what are some of the risk factors? What can really trip up your business? Well, the first one can be your organization fit. This is one thing that really can happen. Organizations say to themselves, technology is the silver bullet. All we need to do is hire a new growth team. We just need to hire a new team of tech savvy people, and we'll get them young and we'll get them to bring in SAP and Oracle, and we'll get them to bring in AWS, and everything will be fine. But what really has to happen in that case is it's not about bringing in the technology. It's about redesigning how our business works internally. BPR, business process re-engineering. Some of you guys have already got experience in that area. So with BPR, that can be part of the organization fit. Some organizations just purchase the technology and they become inflexible themselves to that technology. They don't adapt themselves to it, because with some large technologies like ERP, sometimes they're designed to work the way they work. And if you start customizing them too much for your own processes, which might be inefficient anyway, then that can be a problem. The next one can be the skill set. There's a huge amount of research that says that organizations, they don't have the knowledge or the skills about digital transformation in general, about implementation, about the technology, or they don't think about the change management aspect of it, which is about the people. So I mentioned processes. People is also another absolutely massive thing. So sometimes organizations don't build up that internal capability. They say, we're going to bring in McKinsey, Accenture, Bearing Point, we're going to bring in the best, they'll do it all, and we don't need to know about it. We don't need to have business analysts on staff. We don't need to have digital folks in our team. We just need to hire the guys that know about it. Don't outsource your critical thinking. Don't outsource your critical thinking. It's important for us to have those digital skills internally so we can work more effectively with vendors when they come in. The next one is management strategy. Your technology should not be your strategy. Your technology should not be the thing that tells you how your business is going to evolve over the next number of years. You need to have, as a board, you need to have your own strategy of what your value proposition is, what your roadmap over the next 3 to 5 years is. You need to understand the role that technology plays in enabling you to implement and achieve your strategy. So remember, technology does not define our strategy. Our strategy comes first, and then we look to bring in technology and projects that help us achieve that. And I have a YouTube video available on that for you if you want to learn more. The next one is software design. This is where the technology can trip us up. Sometimes we're trying to do too much with one piece of software and it just can't do it. Or we're trying to adapt it too much and it just can't do it. So sometimes this can be a big challenge for us, actually trying to bring in the software and adapt it to our processes. So maybe meeting halfway, our own business process re-engineering with some customization of that core software that we bring in, and that can be the way to do it. The next one can be rushing to get your vendors to build that software, not talking to them through their software development lifecycle, not adopting a Scrum and an Agile approach, and just saying to them, when it's built, bring it in and then we'll test it for validation and we'll sign the check. An Agile approach is better. You working with your vendor to spec out what your requirements are, what's needed in the new system, actually develop that system itself with ongoing testing in an iterative way, an agile way, so that by the time the system is ready for you to actually take and sign that check, you've already worked through multiple prototypes, multiple round iteration, and you know that when you go to validation testing to pump the data into the system and see if it's actually working, kind of like your car getting oil for the first time, you've already done iterations, you've already tested out beforehand, so you know it's working before you reach that end. A family member of mine said when looking at previous software development life cycles, such as for the waterfall, you can't go back up it. It's the idea that depending on how you work with your vendor to develop your new system, you can either catch the bugs and the problems as they occur and fix them as you go, or you wait until there's too much at the end. And it's at that point where it can become much more intensive to fix, and it can really ruin your project deliverables in terms of time, cost, and scope. And the final one is the technology planning and integration as well. So this is around trying to avoid those bottlenecks. So I have seen cases with clients in the past where, for example, there's been tensions between the project manager in the client and the project manager in the vendor, for example, or a lack of coordination, or even just a lack of support given by senior management. These things can all begin to slow down a project and create bottlenecks. This is exacerbated if we're operating a two-speed IT system, which many of us do. We have a legacy system and we're bringing in a new one. Well, there's patches and fixes that we need to make on our legacy system while we're designing, developing, testing, and implementing our new system. So we're almost like running two shows at once. This can also create massive strain on our IT and our digital team. So just be aware about that as well. We also need to be able to give the right number of staff and skill to a project to try to avoid those failures. Here from the literature are some of the recommendations on how we can avoid these. Organization fit. So lean into business process re-engineering. Don't just buy a technology off the shelf and say that will solve the job. Think about your own business and how you need to adjust your own internal operations. Maybe you've been running your business for years, you've scaled, you've harvested, you've got some cash cows, you're extracting money from the market. Fantastic. Now maybe think about, is there a way we can do some spring cleaning to improve our processes, to make them efficient, less steps, less people, less cost, and what technology can we work with as well. The right skill mix, as I mentioned to you, it's important for us to build up our own internal skills and not outsource too much of that critical thinking or too much of that skill to vendors. We need to know when we're getting a good job done or a bad job done. So we need to be able to have that internal skill set in our own business. And I'm thankful to say that in the last number of years, I've seen a lot more digital transformation and technology courses coming online around the world. I've taken several of them myself, and it's just fantastic that I think we are crossing that chasm, essentially. To anyone who knows Clay Christensen's work, we are crossing that chasm, and the management class are beginning to get a lot more information and knowledge and understanding of digital transformation. The next one is the strategy. As I mentioned, technology is your enabler. It does not drive your strategy. And there are some more tips there for you around software development, user testing. Some of these I spoke about a moment ago. There's another piece of literature that I'm citing here as well that took a look at what are the critical success factors? What are the things we absolutely need to do? On the critical side, on the left, I broke it into two boxes. This is to do with our board, essentially. Giving top management support to maybe creating that digital team, but also making sure that they have all the support they need. Make sure you have a strong vision and a strong roadmap on what your strategy is going to look like and how you're going to get there using technology as the enabler. Build a strong business case that critically assesses the technology, the pros and the cons, and looks at the return on investment as well. Because if you're bringing in a large new piece of technology, such as an enterprise resource planning tool, an ERP, it can be very expensive and time consuming. So we do need to have a business case. Digital transformation is no different to any type of a new investment, a new capex that you're going to do in terms of building a new plant, expanding your offices greatly, for example, it is something that you need to consider the return on investment from. We need to ensure that you have a project champion who is on the board. This has been the single greatest reason that most digital transformation projects have failed. And I'm not saying that as a sweeping statement. The research absolutely backs it up. Not having senior management and director support for your digital transformation initiatives has been the greatest reason that they fail, according to the literature. Other kind of strategic critical success factors include having the right skills around having the right project management team, having a change management plan in place so that your people are committed and brought along with you and they don't fear job losses, for example. They don't feel resentment to being replaced by robotic automation or machinery, for example. And also ensuring that you manage it from a culture perspective as well, so that staff will actually adapt, will embrace technology, and will grow with it. On the tactical side, these are some more of the kind of actual implementation type skills you need: a good team, a good rollout and communication plan, teams that are constantly ongoing, motivated, constant tracking of the things that you're familiar with, such as your costings as well, your software integrations. Select the right consultants and vendors to bring in, select the right technology, the right type of an ERP, for example, to bring in. But here's how they're related. It's very easy. We check out and see a lot of frameworks, we see a lot of lists. It's really important for us to now understand that all of these different critical success factors work together, because business is holistic. If we have top management support, this means that we will assign a project champion to our digital transformation initiative, which means that the actual project team themselves are going to be well stocked, well resourced, supported, and get their job absolutely done. This means that they're able to collaborate within their team and with multiple stakeholders across the different organizations, because if we're bringing in a large digital transformation, many different divisions or departments in your business are going to be impacted. So top management support with a champion helps your project team, helps them to implement and collaborate, helps them if you have clear goals as well, so that they can meet your expectations as well. They can also communicate effectively with other people in the department. They can also work correctly with the vendors and have that good competence that we need on the team. So the point here is a lot of these different critical success factors are all interlinked. It's not a kind of a sample list where you take one and leave the other. You need to see it as a full integrated project. So what are some of the key lessons? We've seen some of the reasons why our organizations fail. They were in our charts. We took a brief look at the critical success factors that we need to try to lean into. And we also took a look at how they're related to each other. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at just a small number of key lessons to begin to summarize. 70% of digital transformation initiatives do not reach their goal. What can we do about it? What can we do to be in the 30% that do? This is the thing to pay attention to, guys. This is the thing to remember. Digital transformation is not about technology. It is about much more, including your people and your processes. I have mentioned these briefly. Your people, some of your staff are going to feel fear and resentment that they might be replaced by technology, when in fact it's the opposite. They are being augmented, they are being supported to do their job better with technology. We need change management around this. So there's the emotional cycle of change and Cotter's 8-step process that I would recommend you look at. From the process perspective, we can see that we might need to adjust how our internal business operates. What are our actual processes for sign-off, for sharing information, capturing information, reporting, manufacturing, production, whatever it might be. We need to change some of how we internally operate. One of the ways I look at this is there's no point in bringing in automation if you already have a problem in how your process runs. If you have a process running today and you're only in one country and your problem is quite small, that's fantastic. But if your plan is to scale to 15 countries over the next 3 years, your problem goes from being one small problem in one country to being one massive problem across your whole globe, your whole 15 countries. So people and processes absolutely need your attention. The technology, everyone's talking about that. You need to just consider Which technologies enable your strategy rather than hinder it? How does technology enable your strategy? That's one of the key things there. So I'm taking the research from the article from Harvard Business Review from Tabrizi 2019. So what's the first lesson from Harvard? They say, figure out your business strategy before you invest in new technologies. A lot of companies focus on technology. It's the easy thing to think about, but we need to focus on our strategy. We should not be saying we need an AI strategy, we need an ML strategy, we need an ERP strategy. No, we need a corporate strategy, and we need to assess the role of technology in enabling that strategy. Technology shouldn't dictate our strategy, it should enable it. Now, I've said that enough, so I'm going to stop, but I also recognize the difficulty in reality. Many of you are going to be sitting there with legacy systems that you cannot change, you cannot adapt, and it might be too difficult to just tear it out overnight. And so your strategy is hindered by the technical capacity of your current systems. That is the reality. But what the research says to us is, if we are going to transform, we should not use strategy as the thing that hinders us. It should enable us. But I do recognize from working with lots of clients, operating a two-speed IT system with legacy systems, it can be difficult to get rid of the old and embrace the new in a seamless way. So I do recognize that in reality, it can be a challenge. Part of the other suggestions from Harvard are agree our concrete goals, agree what we want to achieve, and agree our roadmap to actually getting there. Technology is not that silver bullet, and there is not really, for many organizations, it's not about one technology. It's actually about a collaboration of multiple different technologies. For example, there's a company over in America, and they're a concrete company. And what they started to do is they brought in cloud computing, and that's just data sharing, right? That's what cloud computing is, sharing data. But then they also needed to bring in Internet of Things sensors, which they built into their manufacturing process. They built it into their trucks, their distribution center. They gave it into their clients on site because they build roadways and bridges. So they needed to combine multiple different technologies. They also needed to insert an AI layer on top of the cloud in order to generate future predictive insights. So the point is, it's not necessarily about one technology. It can be about several. What's the next lesson for us? Leverage insiders. Build up your own internal digital transformation knowledge. I'm not saying that because I'm sitting here as the guy training you in it. Of course, I have an invested interest, which you're all aware of. But this goes back to the public domain research from Harvard. You can check it out yourself. Lesson 2 from Harvard is leverage insiders. Don't just over rely on vendors, trainers, and consultants. They're going to try to apply what they've seen working for all of their other clients, or what they know works best for them. They're best practices. This does not mean that every best practice is best for your business, because every business is a little bit unique. So you need to know your own business and your own digital transformation skills as well. So build up those skills and knowledge among the rest of your board members and your managers and your staff. Also rely on those insiders. You've got a lot of folks in the business that know your business, your process, your operation, your customers much better than any external consultant. They know the industry, they know the technology, they know your competitors' implementation. They don't know your business as well as you do. Codify that tacit knowledge as well. Sometimes we have all that information in the back of our brain and we only recall it at a meeting, but let's transfer it around the business. Share it on internal wiki pages, SharePoints, lunch and learns. Try to write down, codify that information and share it across your organization for others to learn it. The next one is design customer experience from the outside in. This is something that we've really been leaning into with COVID-19, but it's been emerging and gaining ground since 2016, the idea of CX, customer experience. The point here is we want our customers to really love our product or service and have a really good experience, whether it be on our website, on our app, in our store, whatever it might be. And digital transformation is just one of the ways we can do this. And it helps improve customer satisfaction and retention. And this is particularly important if any of you guys are operating a revenue recurring model as opposed to just a pay to play or a product-based business. If you're a SaaS business, for example, a service business, looking at your MRR and your ARR, this is really important for you guys. If you require that recurring business, that monthly payment, for example, like your Vodafones, your Netflix, your energy is, for example. The next one is create personas. So this is from the management information systems field. Create a persona. Who is your customer? What do they use your business or your service for? What are the pain points they have, and how can you remove those to increase the level of satisfaction they have with you? Another part of this is creating the as is and the to be journey maps to find out how do customers currently interact with our business, but what's the next best way? What's the way we want to do this in the future? Think about the last time you went to a bank. And I don't mean in COVID times. Before COVID, we already saw the destruction of the physical banking network in Ireland. Many banks have been shutting down branches or minimizing the branches down to literally be a place where you could go to get to a phone or an Apple tablet, but not a human. So banks have been reducing down their headcount and their physical footprints in order to reduce costs. That's the journey maps as well. It's not just about making the customer more satisfied. The literature says that's what we should aim for. But let's be real about this. Many businesses are scaling down on some of their operations in order to reduce their costs. We've been offshoring and outsourcing for 4 decades now, so that's not new. It's important for us to do the research, interviews, focus groups, review your Google Analytics, your Arebes, whatever you're using, and think about how you can use your customer experience to beat your competitors. Because if you're only changing your customer experience to save your costs, how long is it going to be before you're really going to annoy your customers enough for them to go to your competitor? That's the challenge I'm seeing in Ireland. We are reducing our customer experience to a point where we're asking customers to leave because our products and services are not differentiated enough, and our service can be so bad that we're saying to people, go to our competitor because they're better in terms of a customer experience. Don't be like the rest of them, guys. The next thing, the next lesson from Harvard, recognize your employees may fear being replaced by technology. They fear job losses. They fear that they're going to be made redundant. Let them know that it's technology plus people equals growth. It's not replacing people all the time. Some industries are replacing a lot more people, and others are actually growing their headcount and growing their investments in technology. So not every industry is about removing people, but not every industry is about improving with the headcount and the technology. So it really depends on your particular industry. But you do need to reassure your staff. Try to keep them in their jobs. Try to give them another job. So displace them to another role. Give them the relevant training that they need. Show them how to use the technology. Let them know that the technology is going to help them do their jobs better. And I have been seeing this with clients implementing ERP, for example. Their staff know, and the staff have told me themselves that there would have been jobs they did, reports they created a couple of months ago that might have taken hours. But when a new system is brought in, it's at the click of a button and it's a 5-minute job. Can you imagine how good that is for your staff to hear? They can get freed up to go and do other jobs that they prefer to do. Who really enjoys sitting there writing reports for hours on end? I don't really enjoy it. Maybe you do. The other thing here as well to consider is about agile management. So this is about securing quick wins. If our staff are worried about losing our jobs, if your board, your CEO, your investors are worried about all the money that you're putting into digital transformation, do what you know best. Go for the quick wins. Start off with small pilot projects that prove their efficacy, deliver a return on investment, whether that be revenue or cost reduction, and scale that up over time. That's how we also win with digital transformations. And involve your staff at the planning phase as well. I mentioned to you earlier about change management. Here's just some frameworks to be aware of: the emotional cycle of change and Kotter's change management. The final one is from Harvard as well. Bring that Silicon Valley startup culture in. The key lesson for this is, as you've scaled your business in the past and you've gone through your economies of scale, reducing your unit cost, and you've gone into harvesting out of your cash cows, you've said, great, everything is about scale, reduce the cost, increase standardization. That will not work. If you're going through a digital transformation initiative, your business is changing how it operates. It's not about scaling that up efficiently and cheaply. It's about experimenting. What's the right technology? What's the right process? What's the right way to do this? How do we change the website today and again tomorrow and again the next day? There is a process of inefficiency, because think about it, it's almost like being a startup again. You're trying to figure out what is the best way to do something for the future. It's not the way it has been in the past where we scaled it low cost, high efficiency. So That's kind of what we talk about with the Silicon Valley approach. We have to accept some level of pain and change. We have to make our prototyping and our agile sprints so that we kind of figure it out for ourselves. Here's my quick closing message for you. Digital transformation is about more than just technology. It's about leaders with the foresight to see change and the courage to reinvent their organizations before others force them to. Remember, we saw this with Blockbuster versus Netflix. Netflix is on your phone and Blockbuster is a distant memory. They didn't change themselves in time. Don't be the next Blockbuster.